Hey, I'm Melissa.
And I'm Whitney.
We started this true crime podcast over a glass of wine and quickly turned from true crime listeners into true crime advocates.
So get comfy, pop a cork, and grab a glass because we have work to do.
This is Cults, Crimes, and Cabernet.
Some content may be unsuitable for sensitive listeners. Discretion is advised.
Happy Monday.
Happy Monday and happy almost Christmas.
Yes, it's going to be here before we know it.
It snuck up on me this year. Usually I'm prepared. I have presents bought in October. No, I'm going to buy more presents this evening.
That's crazy. I am completely done, but I usually have it done earlier than I did this year. But I am done and just worrying about podcast stuff now. It's all I
Yep.
got on my list. It's nice.
Yeah. Speaking of podcast stuff, for those that don't know, we will be in London in June for CrimeCon UK. Get your tickets now.
Yeah. Use code Cabernet23. What kind of wine you got, Whitney?
This week, I just have a good old gas station wine. I've run out of options at my Walmart, at this gas station. We may have had this one before. It seems familiar. It's not standing out to me as anything different. It's the Alamos Cabernet Sauvignon from Mendoza, California. It's pretty good.
Nice. Awesome. Let's get into it.
Okay. My Idaho case sent me down quite a rabbit hole. So hold on for this one because it's going to be a bumpy ride. The city of Challis, or Challis, I heard it said both ways, is the largest city in Custer County, Idaho, with only a population of 1,081 people in 2020. This shows that this town is located in an extremely rural area of Idaho.
That's all I think about when I think about Idaho.
It's just rural areas, open spaces.
Yes.
Or
I've never been
Boise.
there.
I've only ever been to Boise when my husband graduated with his master's, and it was December. It was cold. We didn't spend a lot of time outside.
Okay.
In 2020, the second largest earthquake in Idaho history occurred on March 31st, recording a 6.5 magnitude.
Wow.
This city also contains the largest collection of old log homes in the state of Idaho,
Oh,
which is like cutesy, but also what an interesting thing to be known for.
yes. Very weird.
It's also a short drive from several ghost mining towns, which would be fun
Oh,
to explore.
that's the best. I could get on board now.
And it's a fairly safe town. They recorded 0 murders in the last 20 years.
Holy moly. That's pretty safe.
With crime being this low, it makes perfect sense that 9-year-old Stephanie Crane was allowed to walk with her friends down the street to the bowling alley after school. She went every Monday with classmates to participate in the weekly bowling league. This Monday, October 11th of 1993, was no different. As soon as the bell rang at Challis Elementary School, Stephanie and her friends just bebopped their way down the road to bowl a few frames. At 4 o'clock, Stephanie's mom, Sandy, met her at the lane to give her money for snacks and to pay for her round of bowling. And Stephanie promised to walk straight home after her league was finished. All of the kids had finished their games by about 4:45, and they began heading off in their own directions. A couple of kids were picked up by parents, a couple others walked. Stephanie lived just 500 yards from the bowling alley, and she had made the journey many times. Stephanie's friend's mom saw her walking through the parking lot and even offered her a ride, but Stephanie declined. She said, "I've done this before. My house is just right here. I got this."
By the time she got in the car and got buckled, she could already be at her house from walking.
Exactly. She then turned and headed over the footbridge that crosses Garden Creek on her way home. However, another report from Brandy's mother, who was Stephanie's best friend, said she saw Stephanie trying to cross the road to head back towards the school. So she stopped and also asked Stephanie, "Do you need a ride? What's going on?" Stephanie declined and said that she had left her backpack at the soccer fields and she was just returning to retrieve it before heading straight home. You can see All of these things from the bowling alley parking lot. They're all very close proximity. When Stephanie didn't arrive home by 5 p.m., Sandy grew nervous. She called the bowling alley, and the attendant notified her that Stephanie had already left, but she should have made it home by now.
It's just, like, all right there. And first
Yeah.
of all, for a town that only has about 1,000 people in it, to have a bowling alley, that's pretty awesome.
And I'm gonna guesstimate it was closer to 800 because this is in the 90s when this happened, and it was 1,000 people in 2020. So I would say 750, 800 people tops.
Yeah, that's crazy to have a bowling alley.
Well, it's rural, they have nothing else to do there, so they've gotta have at least one form of entertainment. I doubt they have a movie
Um,
theater.
that no, my parents' town is 2,000. They have no movie theater, no bowling alley. They don't have anything for like, anything to do, but you just
True.
like, a 15-minute drive, and you're at those things. But in
Yeah,
their particular tiny town, they don't have anything like that.
yeah. This one is hours from a larger town, so
Oh,
maybe
okay,
that's
so
why they
they
have it.
yeah.
Earl and Hazel Crane, Stephanie's grandparents, live next door, so perhaps she stopped in to say hello to them. Sandy called Hazel at 5:15, but she also hadn't seen Stephanie. Stephanie was rarely late home. She always followed Sandy's instructions when directed to go straight home. And again, this town is where next to no violent crimes happen, especially against children. They're regularly seen out and about on their own. This is the early 90s where, as kids, we were encouraged to stay out until the streetlights came on. Go outside, have fun with your friends, don't play in the roads. See you later. Drink
And
out of a
that
garden hose.
yeah, and that is if it is not a dangerous area, but a normal area. This area seems like it's straight out of Mister Rogers' Neighborhood.
Regardless, Sandy and Hazel decided to head out and drive around looking for her. As the sun started getting low, panic started setting in more and more. Stephanie was afraid of the dark. She slept with her bedroom lights on, not just a lamp, and she wouldn't be playing outside at night, even though she was a very outdoorsy kid. Knowing this, Sandy went back home and started calling all of the friends she knew. All of them stated that they had not seen her since leaving the bowling alley. She thought maybe she hitched a ride with one of her friends, went over to a friend's house, forgot she was supposed to come home. You're running through every single one of those scenarios, hoping for the best possible case. Sandy immediately drove to the Custer County Sheriff's Office to report her missing. The deputies weren't even sure of what protocol to follow for a missing person because they rarely see it, let alone a missing child. The only other calls that they received that day was for one traffic incident and an injured deer.
Oh, and the traffic incident may have been the injured deer.
It could have been. Police immediately thought that Stephanie had to have had an accident somewhere. So, where do you start looking from there? At the bowling alley. Where could a child have gotten hurt from the bowling alley to home? She had to cross that small creek because she had fallen and slipped and fell in the water and accidentally drowned. They rush over to the creek and find absolutely no evidence that Stephanie was there or had been in an accident. This creek is also very shallow, and the current is more of a trickle than an actual current, so she wouldn't have been swept away. The best part of small towns is that news travels fast. By 9 p.m., most of the town knew that Stephanie was missing. Volunteers came in by the dozens to help. They started at the bowling alley and extended out towards the elementary school. Tracking dogs were called in, and one seemed to have latched onto some sort of scent in the bowling alley parking lot, but the scent didn't extend very far, and it also didn't give any clear direction as to which way Stephanie may have gone.
Mm.
By midnight, nothing had been found, and authorities chose to suspend the search until they had daylight. Tuesday morning, bright and early, all hands were on deck. State law enforcement, search dogs, people on horseback, a specialized search and rescue team from nearby Blaine County came in, firefighters, residents, anyone with a truck or ATV that could search the rural areas around the town showed up to find this sweet 9-year old. Local businesses even closed down for the day or operated with the absolute smallest crew they could possibly get by with so that they had more volunteers on hand to find Stephanie.
Oh my god, this town is literally the best.
Yeah, that small town mentality. Everyone is willing to help.
Ugh.
Slaying through traffic to the post office, inbox more like a blizzard than a winter wonderland, rushing to send cards and gifts to your loyal clients, It's not too late to get your holiday mailing and shipping under control with stamps.com. Sign up now and you'll be printing your own postage in minutes.
And if you're running an online store, stamps.com works seamlessly with all the major shopping carts and marketplaces. We have started using stamps.com and couldn't be more happy with the ease of the site and, of course, the prices.
For more than 20 years, stamps.com has been indispensable for over 1 million businesses.
Use stamps.com to print postage wherever it is that you are shipping. All you need is a computer and a printer. Sometimes I need my packages picked up, which is easily scheduled through my stamps.com dashboard. This has made shipping our swag boxes year round a breeze.
Get ahead of the holiday chaos this year and get started with stamps.com today. Sign up with promo code Cabernet for a special offer that includes a 4-week trial plus free postage and a free digital scale. There's no long-term commitments or contracts.
Just go to stamps.com, click the microphone at the top of the page, and enter code Cabernet.
From the creators of Dr. Death, Scamfluencers, and Over My Dead Body, Wondery goes deeper into complex true crime stories to give you an inside look at the facts. And now, Wondery is launching the ultimate true crime fan destination, Exhibit C. It's truly criminal.
Dive deep into the most devious scams, manipulative cults, and the coldest of cases. Wondery Exhibit C lets you view all the evidence through a detective's lens, taking you step by step through the twists and turns of each true crime case.
Join the Exhibit C online community to access exclusive show merchandise, member-only content, and to hear directly from top criminal and social justice experts, witnesses, and investigators as they take us beyond the evidence and into the case file.
I love that this podcast gives us the facts of the case versus just speculation. Having expert and witness interviews takes it up a notch. I would completely recommend you all check out Exhibit C.
Join now by following Wondery Exhibit C on Facebook or find us on the web at wonderyexhibitc.com and listen to true crime podcasts on Wondery and Amazon Music.
Exhibit C. It's truly criminal.
Local authorities also hoped that Stephanie was perhaps just with a friend that maybe Sandy hadn't contacted and that she would turn up at school the following day. But that hope faded when Stephanie was not present. The search team checked sheds, garages, abandoned vehicles, ditches, open fields, barns. Every stone turned over, every inch covered, no signs of Stephanie. Wednesday brought in more than 1,000 people to participate with the search. That's more than the entire town's population at the time.
Crazy.
The search extended out into the counties nearby. By Thursday, authorities had to redirect their efforts. If she had been lost, they would have found her by now. The only option that seemed to be left was that she had been abducted. This was not only devastating to the Crane family, but also to the whole town. This small, wholesome town had been tainted by this horrible act. Friday, a press conference was held asking for tips. A few came in, but most notable was about a suspicious yellow pickup truck with a red pinstripe. It had been seen near the elementary school, but no one had thought to get a plate number. Why would you think to write down a plate number when you live in what seems to be the safest town in America?
Seriously, but luckily it's a different color than typical
Mhm.
vehicles.
October is prime hunting season in Idaho, and hunters regularly travel down Highway 93 to make it out to the hunting cabins in the rural areas. Highway 93 is where Brandy last saw Stephanie standing to head back towards the elemental. Could someone have snagged her from the side of the road and head right on out of town undetected? By Saturday, only a few people were still searching the rural areas for Stephanie. With not a single shred of evidence found, locals banded together to raise reward funds for her safe return. It reached $25,000 within hours, and then an anonymous donor offered to double it to 50.
Oh my God.
Flyers were created and volunteers handed them out, as well as donated time to fold and address them to be mailed out in the surrounding cities. In 1993, there was no Amber Alert system. This is the most efficient way to notify a geographical location. The Foundation for Missing Children donated more than 400,000 flyers to be sent out within that first week of Stephanie's disappearance.
This is unheard of. I'm just 400,000?
Investigations continued behind the scenes, and when speaking with some of Stephanie's classmates, one remembered a quote, creepy man at the bowling alley who had been paying a little too close attention to the kids. This classmate provided us a description, and a composite sketch was drafted. This sketch was then circulated throughout the state, but no lead surfaced. I want to applaud the volunteers on this case because they really started thinking outside of the box with how to get Stephanie's case out further. They asked truck drivers to carry flyers with them on their cross country routes to distribute them throughout truck stops and gas stations. Some even had Stephanie's photo painted on the back of their trailers
Oh my god.
with the number to call for any information.
This is just it's amazing that all of these people are coming together to help this little girl.
All of this effort still turned up zero evidence. One positive is that all of these efforts gained the attention of America's Most Wanted, which was, bar none, one of the most popular television shows in the 90s.
Yes.
A few tips came in, but none of them panned out. Grasping at straws, and it being the 90s, psychics started showing up at the
Mm.
Cranes' doors. They met with volunteers, and one pointed to a couple of areas in the central part of the state that led to searches. Again, volunteers were left empty handed. Stephanie's great uncle, Robert Crane, who owned a yellow pickup truck at one point, was requested for questioning. He hadn't been seen or heard from since June of 1989 when he was let out on probation for a DUI. He's never really listed as a suspect, but he was wanted for questioning. There was some connection there. He had a yellow pickup. He's a disgruntled human being,
Yeah.
basically. And they wanted to say, "Do you know where your great niece is?" On October 28th, authorities put out a statewide alert noting that he may be armed and dangerous because he had a warrant out for his probation violation. Robert was found on November 4th in Colorado, but was officially removed from any sort of persons of interest list when he had a solid alibi. This is where Stephanie's case slows down significantly. Stephanie's parents divorced 2 years after her disappearance because they just couldn't handle the stress of having a missing child. They also had four younger kids at home. Stephanie was the oldest. They had four babies at home.
Divorce is after losing a child, it like goes up like crazy, the chances of divorce.
It just breaks you.
It
It
does.
breaks you as a human being. And Sandy would die just 2 years after that
Oh no.
at 32 years old.
Holy crud.
She had ongoing health problems, and the official cause of death would be listed as blood clots in her lungs. But Stephanie's grandmother and her mother in law said that she died of a broken heart.
Oh,
In 1997, Keith Glenn Hescock was questioned in Stephanie's disappearance because he was cited for illegal poaching in the area. No evidence came from this interrogation. Stephanie's case stood stagnant and cold for several years. That is, until April of 2000, when an inmate in the Canyon County Jail claimed he had a friend that knew the person responsible for Stephanie's death, or for Stephanie's disappearance. This friend told authorities that she had rented a room in Nampa, Idaho, from the man she believed took Stephanie. Nampa is roughly 200 miles west from Challis. She said he was a drifter, rarely staying in one spot, and neighbors had told her that they had heard sounds of a young girl screaming and crying coming from his basement.
oh my god.
And this man never let anyone go into his basement. He had told his neighbors that it was his own daughter that he had locked up down there because she kept running away.
I'm sorry, that's illegal too.
Yes. This woman who was renting the room with her children started to go through his belongings a little bit, just peek around a little bit. She found several pairs of what seemed to be a young girl's underwear, but she was never able to gain access to the basement. She tried, but it was locked.
Uh,
Police took this lead, followed it, and learned that this man had been arrested in Portland, Oregon in 1992 on charges that he sexually abused his young daughter, but served no jail time.
This just keeps getting worse.
You see what I mean by rabbit hole?
Yes.
He was released on probation and was not allowed to have contact with his daughter.
Okay,
So
what about all the other children of the world?
what if he was not allowed to have contact with his daughter, who did he have in Idaho?
Oh, very true.
Authorities tracked him down in May of 2000 and asked him to take a polygraph test. Originally, he came in for questioning. He had no problem with taking the polygraph test. But once he found out that he failed his test, he immediately refused to be cooperative.
Hmm.
Police had enough to gain a warrant for his Nampa, Idaho home. And in the basement, they found an old mattress, strands of hair, rope, and what appeared to be blood stains on the floor. Samples were gathered and sent to the lab. The test results came back inconclusive.
Even the hair?
This is the early 2000s, and there was no root ball.
Okay. Well, man.
They weren't even able to tell if the blood was human or animal. So maybe an incompetent lab. I'm not sure.
I was like, we've come so far.
The drifter was released, but detectives did create a photo lineup, hoping that it would spark someone's memory at the bowling alley. They take it over, and many of the employees had no opinion. They couldn't tell any difference in any of the people of the lineup.
It had been years.
So this ultimately was a dead end, except for one employee. One employee did select the drifter's photo, but she was wavering on her choice. So you can't really take that as solid anything.
Man.
Let's fast forward to June 5th, 2002. You remember good old poacher Keith? He was suspected in the disappearance of a 20-year-old woman, and he had kidnapped a 14-year-old girl in Idaho Falls. He took her to his home, chained her to his bed, and raped her. He had admitted to killing before and told her he was going to kill her, but he had to go to work first.
All right. At least he's punctual.
This badass little teenager freed herself and used a fire extinguisher to break the chain and escape.
Oh, I was hoping she broke his face, but
I'll do you one better.
Okay.
She ran to the police and helped them make it back to his home, where they were waiting with SWAT forces. Keith arrives after work, realizes something's up at his house, and proceeds to cause a car chase for over 40 miles. He ended up getting caught in a dead-end road and started opening fire on law enforcement. In the firefight, he shot a canine deputy and killed that canine deputy.
What a mother trucker! I'm getting more angry by the moment.
He wounded an officer and then turned the gun on himself.
Oh, because he's a coward.
The authorities re-examined all of the evidence that was connected to Keith, everything that was stacked against him. We're talking boxes and boxes of evidence, but not a single shred of it pointed to Stephanie.
Oh.
Law enforcement believes that Stephanie is likely deceased and that the drifter, whose name has never been released, is still a person of interest. She remains listed as a missing person almost 30 years later. So if you have any information on Stephanie Lyn Crane's disappearance, please contact the Custer County Sheriff's Office at 208-879-2232. She was last seen on Highway 93 walking towards Challis High School. She has a cowlick on the right side of her hairline and a scar near her right eye. She has very thick brown hair that's naturally curly and blue eyes.
Poor baby.
Just by listening to our content, you too are advocating for justice for these families. Thank you for making a difference in their lives as well.
We want to share a few ways you can support us to continue our mission. You can become a Patreon subscriber for as little as $1 per month, or a simple rate and review on your favorite podcast platform helps us get in front of someone who may know something.
We will continue traveling state by state seeking justice because we will be there no matter where,
no matter who.